Welcome to English Rise. This channel was created for people who want to improve their English while developing something deeper at the same time. Not only vocabulary, not only grammar, but clarity, discipline, self-mastery. Here, English is not taught through shortcuts or motivational hype. It is trained through reflection, psychology, and long-form listening. If this kind of calm, serious, and immersive English content helps you grow, consider subscribing to the channel and staying with us. Now, let's begin. Part 1. Why advice sounds good but changes nothing. Most advice sounds reasonable, logical, well-intentioned, easy to agree with. Wake up earlier. Be consistent. Believe in yourself. Stay disciplined. You hear it. You understand it. And then, nothing changes. This is not because you are lazy, and not because the advice is wrong. It doesn't work because advice speaks to the mind, while change happens in behavior. And behavior is not controlled by information. Part 2. The illusion that knowing is doing. Modern culture is addicted to knowledge. We collect tips, frameworks, methods, rules. We feel productive just by understanding something new. But understanding creates a false sense of progress. Your brain releases satisfaction before action happens. This is dangerous because it replaces effort with insight. Most advice feeds this illusion. It makes you feel prepared without making you uncomfortable. Part 3. Why advice ignores context. Advice is generic. Your life is not. What works for someone with structure fails for someone without it. What works for someone with confidence breaks someone who is insecure. Advice removes friction. Real life is friction. When advice ignores context, it becomes theoretical. And theory collapses under pressure. That's why advice works perfectly in calm moments and disappears under stress. Part 4. The emotional gap advice never addresses. Advice assumes rational behavior. Humans are not rational. You don't fail to act because you don't know what to do. You fail because emotions interfere. Fear, resistance, self-doubt, fatigue. Advice rarely talks about this. It tells you what to do, not how to move through discomfort. And discomfort is the real barrier. Part 5. Why motivational advice fails first. Motivation-based advice depends on emotion. Feel inspired. Feel driven. Feel ready. But feelings fluctuate. When motivation fades, the advice loses power. This creates a cycle. You feel motivated. You try. Motivation drops. You stop. Advice that depends on motivation creates inconsistency. And inconsistency kills progress. Part 6. The problem with success stories. Success stories are seductive. They show results, confidence, certainty. But they hide the internal chaos, the doubt, the boredom, the resistance. Advice extracted from success is usually cleaned, simplified. What remains is inspiring, but unusable, because the struggle was removed from the story. Part 7. Why advice doesn't change identity. Real change is identity change. Advice targets behavior only. You can follow advice temporarily without becoming the kind of person who acts consistently. Once pressure returns, you revert, because identity always wins. Advice that doesn't reshape identity creates temporary compliance, not transformation. Part 8. The comfort problem. Most advice is comfortable. It is easy to consume, easy to agree with, easy to forget. Uncomfortable truths don't spread well, but discomfort is required for adaptation. Advice avoids discomfort because discomfort doesn't sell. And what doesn't sell rarely changes lives. Part 9. Why action-based change is silent. Real change looks boring. No speeches, no dramatic moments, No inspiration, just repetition, quiet, unnoticed. Advice focuses on explanation. Change happens through exposure. Doing the thing when you don't feel like it is never explained well. It is only experienced. Part 10. The difference between advice and training. Advice tells you what. Training forces adaptation. Advice is external. Training is internal. Advice ends when the video ends. Training continues when resistance appears. This is why advice is everywhere and change is rare. We are now getting close to the core reason. The reason why advice doesn't work even when it is correct. Part 11. The real enemy. Internal resistance. Every piece of advice collides with one thing. Resistance. Resistance is silent. It doesn't argue. It delays. I'll start tomorrow. I need to prepare more. Now is not the right time. Advice does not train you to face resistance. It assumes resistance can be ignored. It cannot. Part 12. Why your mind protects the status quo. Your mind is designed to preserve stability, not progress. Change feels like threat, even positive change. Advice introduces uncertainty. Your nervous system reacts. You feel tired, distracted, unmotivated, not because the advice is wrong, but because your system resists change. Advice never warns you about this. Part 13. The cost of change. Advice never mentions. Change costs something: energy, comfort, identity. Advice presents outcomes, not costs. When the cost appears, you feel misled. You thought it would be easier, so you stop, not because you failed, but because you were unprepared. Part 14. Why advice creates dependence. Consuming advice feels productive. You search for better advice, clearer explanations, new perspectives. But consumption replaces execution. You become dependent on external guidance. Instead of building internal authority, you wait to be told what to do. This weakens autonomy. Part 15. Information overload and paralysis. Too much advice creates confusion, contradictions, different methods, opposite opinions. You hesitate, afraid of choosing the wrong approach. Paralysis looks like caution, but it is fear. Advice multiplies options. Action requires commitment. Part 16. Why advice fails under pressure. Advice works in theory. Pressure exposes reality. Stress reduces cognitive bandwidth. Complex strategies collapse. Only habits survive pressure. Advice rarely builds habits. It builds intention. Intention disappears when life gets difficult. Part 17. The difference between hearing and embodying. You can repeat advice without living it. Embodiment is slow. It requires repetition under discomfort. Advice skips this phase. It assumes understanding equals integration. It doesn't. Integration requires time, not insight. Part 18. Why discipline is not advice. Discipline cannot be explained. It is practiced. No advice can make you disciplined. Only exposure to resistance can. Discipline is built in moments advice never reaches. Early mornings, late nights, boring repetitions. Advice avoids these moments. Part 19. The truth about self-help culture. Self-help sells clarity. Change requires endurance. Clarity feels good. Endurance feels heavy. Most advice is designed to feel good, not to make you durable. Durability is unmarketable, but it is necessary. Part 20. What actually works instead of advice. What works is not more advice. It is fewer decisions. Structure, constraints, systems. Systems reduce reliance on motivation. They force behavior. Advice gives freedom. Freedom increases resistance. We are now ready to move beyond advice. toward something quieter, something harder, something that works. Part 21. Why most people confuse awareness with change. Awareness feels powerful. You recognize patterns. You see your mistakes. You understand your limitations. This creates relief, as if change has already begun. But awareness is passive. It does not move the body. You can be fully aware and remain unchanged. Advice increases awareness. Change requires execution. Part 22. The role of pain in real transformation. No meaningful change happens without friction. Pain signals adaptation. Advice tries to remove pain. Real training uses it. When discomfort appears, most people assume something is wrong. In reality, something is working. Advice rarely reframes pain this way. Part 23. Why advice avoids responsibility. Advice places responsibility externally. If you do this, you will succeed. When it fails, you blame the method. Training places responsibility internally. If you fail, you adjust. You don't abandon the process. Advice encourages consumption. Training demands ownership. Part 24. The myth of the perfect method. People search for the right advice, the perfect system, the optimal routine. This search never ends, because perfection delays commitment. Every method works if applied long enough. Most fail not because the method is wrong, but because it wasn't lived. Part 25. Why simplicity is scary. Simple actions remove excuses. Wake up, show up, repeat. There is nowhere to hide. Advice adds complexity. Complexity creates justification. Simplicity demands accountability. And accountability is uncomfortable. Part 26. The silent nature of progress. Progress is invisible for a long time. Advice promises quick results. When results don't appear, people quit. But adaptation happens beneath perception. Those who persist cross the threshold. Those who don't return to advice. Part 27. What advice never teaches you about time? Change is slow, not emotionally slow, biologically slow. Your nervous system needs repetition. Your identity needs reinforcement. Advice ignores time. Training respects it. Time is not an obstacle. It is the medium. Part 28. The real function of good advice. Good advice is not instruction. It is orientation. It points direction. It does not carry you. Those who expect advice to move them remain passive. Those who use advice as reference build their own discipline. Part 29. When you stop seeking advice, a shift happens. You stop asking, "What should I do?" You start asking, "Am I willing to do it consistently?" This question changes everything, because it removes illusion. Part 30. The final understanding before change. Advice doesn't work because it was never meant to. Advice is cheap. Change is expensive. Advice informs. Change transforms. And transformation demands participation. Now we are ready to end this reflection properly. Most advice doesn't fail because it is wrong. It fails because it asks for understanding when what is required is endurance. Advice explains. Life tests. At some point, you realize that no new insight will save you. No new method will carry you forward. No new voice will replace your own discipline. What changes you is what you repeat when no one is watching. This is the philosophy behind English Rise. Here, English is not just something you learn. It is something you practice presence with. You train your listening. You train your patience. You train your ability to stay with discomfort. If you watched until the end, thank you for your time and attention. That alone already separates you from most people who only consume advice. And if this type of deep, calm, and reflective English content helps you grow, both in the language and in yourself, consider subscribing to the channel and continuing this journey with us. Not to look for more advice, but to build what actually works.